Hello and welcome to this week's Equinety Podcast. We are swinging up into Maine, and I tell you what, this is a very touching and exciting story, this one. We're taking a horse that was literally being told by all of the vets to just go ahead and put the horse down, and long story short, started using the Equinety Horse Excel, and now the horse is being ridden again. That's the super Cliff Note version. So let's get into the details. Welcome to the podcast this week. Don Eliot-Johnson, thank you so much for taking the time here on the Equinety Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's always a pleasure. And when I came across your comment on one of our Facebook ads, my mouth was on the floor, as it often is when I hear some of these stories. And so I reached out to you, and now here we are. So I also think, as we were having our pre-call, your background, tell us a little bit about your background and what you do.
Sure. So my background, I work in the veterinary field. I'm a vet tech, also manager of an emergency small animal hospital. And I work with quite a few different veterinarians.
Okay. So, being in that field, you've got access to a lot of great knowledge that you're able to run by a lot of folks and, not have to pay for it all the time, which is a plus, I'm sure.
It is a plus. I get to pick their brain a little.
Yeah, that's awesome. Of course, they come back with other things that make up for that, but... So, okay, so tell us about your horse. How long have you had your horse, Liberty, and what happened to this Liberty horse?
Okay, Liberty, she is a Mustang. She's about 18 years old. I've had her now 7 years. She would spend the summers in these beautiful, lush, rolling fields and eat all day and all night, and then in the wintertime I move her home and take care of them in the wintertime. But this last November of 2018 she moved home and she was extremely overweight, and she in December foundered. She started acting strange and walking backwards. And then on Christmas Eve, actually was true founder and was down and couldn't even walk at that point.
Wow. And the farrier that you have been using, how long have you been working with this farrier?
So the farrier had known Liberty since she was 3 years old. And she had trimmed her feet almost every 6 weeks since then. And she was the one that introduced me to Liberty, so that she knew that she was a great horse and was a perfect fit for me. Being it was my first horse, it was just a wonderful fit. We had a great time learning together.
Right. So when she came back, when Liberty came back, and then you realize, okay, well, super overweight, and so you adjusted diet and everything to handle that, but then the founder sets in. So tell us about that whole experience and how severe it was.
Okay. So she foundered, like I said, Christmas Eve. It was extremely severe that she was down, and being Christmas Eve, I could not get a vet out for quite a few weeks, but had some friends that had some pain meds, so we went and made sure she was on pain meds, called my farrier. She came right out to look at her and say, this is the problem. She's foundering, and we wrapped her feet. We made her comfortable, made her a soft stall, which she had already, but made sure she was in it and made sure it was really super soft for her, and kept her in a smaller area so that the other horse wouldn't pick on her while she was resting. It was to the point of severe enough that when the vet did come out, he pretty much said, you need to euthanize or you're just going to have a crippled lawn ornament. And that wasn't something that I wanted to have or give. I didn't want to give up on her, so I was desperate for any positive information at all. So I started researching, and I found your product in listening to all the podcasts. It just gave me a little hope, and finally decided to start with the sample product.
Yes. Now, before you get into that aspect,
Sure.
talking about the severity of the founder, you could actually see the bone.
Yeah, so the farrier came out and went to trim her feet, and there was a flap that was on the bottom, and if you lifted it up, you could actually see the bone. And at that point, she was like, this is really, really bad. And we were thinking that this was probably going to be the end. But Liberty made sure that I knew through her eating and just her body language that she did not want me to give up on her. So we just kept pushing through, and kept on giving her the product, and just wishing for some magic to happen, and it did.
Yeah, so you came across the Equinety product through your research and through Facebook ads. You saw it through there. So you purchased the little sample tub, which is 15 days, and started feeding that right away. What did you notice within those 15 days?
15 days went by, and she was up longer, standing longer. She was more with it, like her look on her face was, she would be excited about food, and she'd be excited about just being petted and just being loved. So those were encouraging signs to me, which she was slowly losing before I started Equinety.
Yeah, probably.
So it really gave me a little.
Probably going through all of that, a lot of depression setting in because he was in pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
yeah.
So within 15 days, you're seeing demeanor change for the positive and
demeanor changed. Yep, it did. It changed.
Wow. So
she was definitely more with it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so as you started seeing the progress, then you went ahead and purchased, the large sub that we have, and then So what was happening? We'll say in around the 30-day mark, because he was prone to abscesses and all kinds of abscesses.
Yeah. Yeah. So she kept getting abscesses, and she probably had at least 4 different times she had abscesses, one right after the other. It would go from one hoof to the other hoof, just being the front 2. And then after 30 days, it was less and less, and they finally went away. She hadn't had any for a long time.
Wow, that's
it was just incredible that it was just incredible. I can't even explain.
Now, and another thing before, let's back it up 30 days, because prior to this, with your connections in the vet field, and as you're doing your research and you're talking to many, many vets, what was your experience in those conversations with the situation you were having with Liberty? Were they giving you any kind of encouragement, or what was their advice with however many vets you spoke?
No. Yeah, I didn't have much of an encouragement from any of them. A lot of them were just saying that this was a crippling disease, and that it was just a lot of negativity, and I just needed some positive, something to reach for, some hope.
Sure.
And I wasn't getting it, and I just kept trying for somebody to give me some hope, and the farrier was just my support system. She just kept saying, we're going to keep going. She said most owners don't make it through this, but I think we can do it. We can make it through.
Wow.
We did.
That's great.
We did.
So within 15 days, you're noticing a change. 30 days, you're noticing more of a change. And then as you're progressing along, what was your farrier saying along the way? Or were there other little signs that you were noticing along the way while using the product?
Yeah. Well, back when she's having all the abscesses and the lifting of the flap, she was saying it's really bad, but we might want to think about euthanasia. But she was trying to be positive and look for hope. And going off from what I was saying, how she was acting, like, well, we'll keep going. But she kept saying, well, it's not looking good right now with that flap. And then when the flap grew over, she's like, oh, this is promising. So that gave me a little hope. Just a little comment she would make. This, when she was trimming, Libby was standing longer. Like I said, she was just more comfortable. We didn't have to struggle to get her foot up. She would just lift it like they're supposed to. Before, I was like, oh, I had to lean on her. I had to try to twist her around and try in any way whatsoever to get her to lift her foot. And it just got better and better for her and easier for the farrier to trim. And she didn't have to take breaks in between trimming. She could finish the whole foot.
Right. So each time the farrier would come out, you just notice Liberty being more
very small. Yep, very small positive things.
Yep, going in the right direction.
And that that was enough for us to say, okay, we got this. She's got this. There was one time that I will say, when the farrier had left that day, she had said that we might want to consider euthanasia, and I made all the plans to have somebody come out and do the cremation of her after the vet would come. And then that evening, my husband and I were watching her out the window and discussing our options. Liberty was out in the pasture. It was a snowy covered pasture, but it was she was rolling on her back, which she hadn't done in a while, and we were both like, oh, she looks so comfortable. And then all of a sudden she jumped up, shook off, and ran across the field. And we both looked at each other like, what just happened?
Now, how long time, or how much time had passed from the time you started until this happened?
That was, let's see, March. I wrote it. I think that was the beginning of April, because there was still just a little bit of snow. It wasn't a lot. So it was April to March, April 30-ish date, maybe a little over 30 days when that happened. So she didn't have the abscesses anymore. They were going away. So yeah, it was roughly 30 days, maybe 35 after.
Wow, that's incredible. Yep. So now you skip
forward. Yeah, it was incredible.
Yeah, you skip forward a year and 8 months since you've been using the product. And how's she doing today?
Well, today I'm actually getting ready to take her out on trail.
Oh my gosh!
Yep.
We're
going on a trail ride this afternoon. So
now
awesome.
I've got to ask you this: have you spoken with any of the vets in the early, that you went to in the early days to update on how Liberty's doing?
Yes. They didn't. Most of them were like, "Wow, I've never even heard that happen." Most of them have just told their clients to give up on their horses and euthanize, and it's something that they can't fix, but sometimes you can fix them.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you, for those tuning in for the first time, maybe you're just learning about the Equinety product, and we're specifically talking about the Equinety Horse Excel in this podcast. which is 100% pure amino acids. There's no fillers, no sugars, no starches, and there's no loading dose. Serving size is 5.2 grams, which is about like a teaspoon. And what's really unique about this product, the amino acids are specifically formulated to stimulate the pituitary gland, which is the master gland in the body. And that's what releases the necessary hormones, which then the body sends those hormones to the problem areas. So in this extra severe case, we're talking founder, along with the abscesses and things that were going on, but the founder, it's probably, I would say, if your horse is foundering or looking to go in that direction or just have thin soles, one of the great feedback that we hear all the time is how this product really helps thicken the soles and ultimately makes for an all-around healthier, faster, stronger growing hoof, which gives the farrier more to work with in a shorter amount of time. So with all of that being said, if Mother Nature's too far down the path, then, which, of course, listening to this story, you would think that it would have been so far down the path based on the, being able to see the bone and everything. It's like, holy smokes. But,
Yeah.
with hearing your story, I mean, you did everything that I would think a horse owner would need to do, consult with vets, you're talking with everybody, you're doing your research. And, so many times we hear the Equinety Horse Excel has been the missing puzzle piece. And, I tell people all the time, it's not a miracle supplement, but it sure has done some miraculous things. And so, if you find yourself in a situation where, you just seem like you're backed into a corner, you've tried all the other options, try this stuff. I mean, take it from Dawn. She'll tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. Why not? I mean, what else are you going to lose? It's perfect.
Yeah.
Try it.
And as long as you're seeing the progress like you were doing, you think, okay, well, you're reading your horse wants to live, and, then you added the product and you start seeing the small little signs, and we're talking a year and 8 months. So, I mean, there's so many people that, they want an instant fix, and, a lot of times it's not going to be an instant fix, but you're seeing progress along the way. So to be able to go from one end of the spectrum all the way to the other, now you're going out for a trail ride, that's pretty crazy.
It is.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Now,
I'm just so thrilled with it. I just can't be more pleased.
Yeah. Now you have a gelding that was having some issues. What was his deal?
Yeah, so Buddy, he's a quarter horse, redhead. So I always just excuse his temperament, being that he's a redhead, And then this summer I decided, well, why don't I see, maybe I should just try him on this. And so I did. I started at the beginning of the summer. He used to bite me terribly. And he hasn't bitten me since he's been on the product at all. And he's so calm. I have been bareback riding him, which I've never imagined that I would be doing. He's just wonderful. Wonderful. We bonded even more than I can even imagine.
Yeah. Well, and as you and I,
it definitely helped.
Yeah. Well, as you and I were talking, because, it's like, well, why was he being such a brat and biting and doing things with him? I was like, well, it could be any number of things. Maybe he had some ulcer things going on or some kind of pain going on somewhere. And of course he's reaching out to bite the hand that feeds him, which is common in a family. Right. But one of the things that this product really helps with, because we're giving the body what it needs to help release its own hormones. And then, we've had a lot of people tell us it's like the best way they describe it. It's just helping to balance the horse from the inside out so they can be a horse again. Yeah. So,
exactly.
Yeah, that is so awesome. Well,
it's made him a happy, gentle horse.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Dawn, if there's anybody tuning into this podcast that, they've heard this story and they're thinking, well, this is too good to be true, or maybe they're just still on the fence about it. Is there anything that you could tell them outside of what you've already told that might get them off the fence to at least give the product a try?
I would say just read your horse. If your horse wants to live, why not try it? There's nothing else you can lose. It's just worth doing. I had almost zero hope when I started, and now I'm going to be riding my horse this afternoon. Year and a half out. So it's worth just trying.
Yeah, that is so amazing. Through the years, we've had stories like this that were, horses were scheduled to be put down and they came across the product. Now they're riding the horse again. And, and again, I stress you got to go to your medical experts and talk with them and do your research and everything else. But, at the end of the day, the Equinety Horse Excel, it is 100% pure amino acids. There's nothing in there that will hurt your horse. It can be used with any other medications and everything because there's no side effects. It's amino acids. So it's just, it's turned around so many horses in so many ways. And this is just another example. And I would say a severe example from, a severe founder situation to now you're riding again in a year and 8 months. That's incredible. So,
it is.
Well, Don Eliot-Johnson out of Maine, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to share your story here on the Equinety Podcast.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Well, I thank you. I really appreciate it, and I know there's going to be a lot of people that get a lot of benefit out of this one. So thanks again.
I hope so. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.